What's up, horror fan? Welcome back to the channel. So for today's episode, we have more Scream 7 news. It seems like the news just keeps coming on this one. I think we've finally got our last bit of casting news a couple weeks ago, so I think we are all set with casting for this film. But again, the news just keeps coming. We do expect filming to start for Scream 7 this coming week, which is finally good news that they are going to start filming on this one. Get this one rolling. As you know, there is going to be a shift from Scream 6 to Scream 7 as far as story. Some of the actors and actresses who are no longer part of the franchise, those who have come back to the franchise. So we'll cover off that here in a moment. We also have some Nosferatu news. Again, as I've always mentioned, I love the behind the scenes stuff. I love it when actors and actresses kind of give us a little bit of insight on what drives them as far as when it comes to a specific project. So Lily-Rose Depp provided some context on what inspired her as far as the role, as far as how she played the role for Nosferatu, so we'll get into that as well. But first, we're going to start off with Scream 7. So Scream 7's filming start month revealed with intriguing Ghostface casting tease. Quote, "It's always different." So getting into these details, with a whole roster of potential suspects, Rich Delia has shared how he and director Kevin Williamson have cast Scream 7's Ghostface, as well as when filming will begin. After creative hall amid Melissa Barra's firing and Jenna Ortega's exit, the next movie will shift the focus back to Neve Campbell's Sidney Prescott as she once again faces someone donning the Ghostface mask. Alongside Campbell, the ensemble Scream 7 cast will feature new and returning faces. And there's a list there. We're not going to go over the list. We've been covering Scream 7 for quite some time. And every time there's been a casting, we've covered off on it. So nothing that we're going to need to find out there that's going to be new. During a recent interview with the direct for the home release of Never Let Go, Delia was asked for some insight on how the highly anticipated Scream 7, the casting director who joined the franchise with 2022 Scream, began by confirming that cameras will begin rolling in January, while also going on to share his thought process behind casting the new Ghostface, noting that each new installment brings with it a different tone and story, leading to a very specific goal for him and the team. "I was lucky enough to work on the last two Scream films, so I've had a little experience with casting a few actors as Ghostface, and it's always different depending on the story and the tone. You know, I love Mickey Madsen so much. She was obviously popping so big this year in Anora, and she's amazing. And she was someone who had really popped into my mind when we were doing, one of the previous iterations of Scream. And then Jack Quaid is such a likable, personable guy that you knew that it was kind of a twist that you wouldn't necessarily see coming. So depending on where they fit into the story or looking at how I can either mess with audience expectations, present a red herring, pick someone that you would never expect. Ghostface kind of fits into each iteration of Scream differently, and so you're just looking for however the casting can elevate or subvert the audience's expectations of who that might be." So I'm hoping with all the casting that we've gotten thus far, and we know as far as the returning characters from previous films, like the original OG films, we know Courtney Cox recently signed on. We know Sidney Prescott's kids will show up in this film as well. One of the daughters, she has a daughter that's been casted. Now, it's a matter of if Kincaid, the cop that played in one of the previous Scream films, who's supposedly Sidney Prescott's husband, will be in this film. That hasn't been determined as of yet. I'm wondering, just based on that comment alone, or that, that statement, it would lead me to believe there's a possibility that in this film we could see Gale Weathers, who's played by Courtney Cox, as Ghostface, or she's just going to be killed off in the beginning and she's going to be, the one to set a tone for the rest of the film. I'm surprised, to be honest, that she's made it this far. I would have thought that she would have died long ago. I don't necessarily think the character is necessary anymore, so I think it is okay to kill her off, whether that's like what they did with Drew Barrymore, in the original Scream, just kill her off in the in the first 5-10 minutes and just be done with the character, or make sure she doesn't make it out alive in this particular sequel, because again, I'm okay with that character going away. Now, the fact that we're going back to the Sidney Prescott character and story is a bit disappointing. I understand why they're doing it. I understand the position they're in to do it for this Scream 7. But I think, again, I feel like that story's been told enough already that we don't necessarily need to keep going back to the well on the Sidney Prescott character. Because, at what point do you say enough's enough? Kind of like Halloween, when you have Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode. And I'm a big Halloween fan. As you can see behind me, I have a huge Halloween, Michael Myers print framed and on my wall. And I think at some point, again, when you have a character that, not the main villain, because the villain is what drives the franchise, but the other characters, again, like Laurie Strode, like Sidney Prescott, I think at some point it's time to be done with them, move on from them. And if you're going to keep the franchise going, you got to find a way to pivot from those characters into something different and new that the audience will want to see and would want to see. Not continually trying to bring these characters along for their entire life journey. While a January start may not mean much given the month is already underway, it does at least mark a promising step in Scream 7's development. The last filming update for the sequel came in July 2024, when Campbell revealed that some scheduling issues had delayed the start of cameras rolling from September to December. Given that was already pushing up close to a holiday break, it makes sense the team would ultimately elect to push filming back to January. When looking at the filming schedules for previous installments, it seems likely that Scream 7 will wrap up filming around late March or early April, as almost every previous movie took an average of 2 months to complete principal production. This would also give Williamson and the rest of the team plenty of time to make any tweaks necessary to final product, given the movie is currently slated for a February 27, 2026 release. Though Delia's comments may not directly allude to any of the various new cast members being Scream 7's ghosts, they do at least promise that the person or people who don the mask in the next installment have been chosen with the mindset of keeping audiences on their toes. Considering the previous Ghostface motivations have ranged from revenge to fame-seeking, shifting the story's focus back to Sidney could make for any number of reasons why they'd be hunting her down. Again, I'm all for, hey, if you want to throw me a surprise, you want to keep me on my toes, make Sidney Prescott Ghostface. Make Gail Weathers Ghostface. Make Sidney Prescott's daughter Ghostface. Somehow bring that. And this last part is just, the author's take, so we're not going to go over that. But I would think that would be a huge twist to the Scream story or the Scream franchise. Is you have the foundational character of Sidney Prescott being the target for many of the films, and then all of a sudden now she becomes Ghostface, or like I mentioned, Gail Weathers, because she's been around since the original film as well. Those two would be the biggest twist, and I could see the audience not expecting. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they'll be brave enough to do something like that, because again, if you do that, where do you go now for the rest of the franchise, especially if it's Sidney Prescott? If you make her Ghostface, where she's now just lost it and then just turns on everybody because she's just, gone crazy. Where do you go if you decide to do a Scream 8, unless you do a complete reboot of the franchise and start all the way over from the very beginning of Ghostface being really introduced? We'll have to wait and see who will be Ghostface, or who the individuals will be Ghostface, assuming they do more than one as they've done in previous films. So more to come on this one. Moving into some Nosferatu news. This 1981 horror film secretly made Lily-Rose Depp's terrifying Nosferatu performance even better. We are going to do, and FYI, this article and what we will be going through next will have spoilers in it for Nosferatu. So if you have not seen Nosferatu, be prepared. There's going to be spoilers. This article has them. I recently seen Nosferatu. I will not be giving my take, my review, my opinion on the film itself. I'm going to be doing a separate video for that, so be on the lookout for when that drops. But I just want to make sure everyone's aware this article will have spoilers in it. So if you haven't seen the film and you do plan on seeing it, just be aware. All right, so actor Lily-Rose Depp has impressed audiences with her jaw-dropping performance in director Robert Eggers' horror film Nosferatu, and a 43-year-old movie is partly to thank for it. In the movie, Depp portrays a woman who falls under the psychic influence of the evil vampire Count Orlok, the demonic episodes she experiences as she falls under the unpled plague carries spell for more of the most shocking scenes in Nosferatu. As a remake of the 1922 film of the same name, Robert Eggers' Nosferatu mainly draws inspiration from it and Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, which inspired the original movie. However, there is more obscure horror film from 1901 that inspired the 2024 version of Nosferatu, specifically Depp's portrayal of protagonist Ellie Hutter. The former movie also revolves around a woman who seems to become involved with an otherworldly force, and the way Depp pays homage to said film in Nosferatu stands as a testament to its impact as a cult classic. So let's just keep going down. One of the greatest influences of 2024's Nosferatu is director, I'm not even sure I pronounced that name, 1981 psychological horror film Possession. In an interview with IndieWire, Lily-Rose Depp spoke about how Isabella Adagi's character in Possession inspired her widely physical performance as Ellen in Nosferatu. Quote, I thought about Possession. Isabella Adagi as an incredible and iconic performance in that. She also was an Ellen of the past, Herzog's 1979 Nosferatu, and so I was very honored to carry the French girl baton to play Ellen in this version. She's an actress that inspires me a lot. Similar to Ellen Hunter, Adagi's character in Possession, Anna experiences mental health problems during her husband Mark's absence. The most notable similarity between the two characters is the violent and bestial seizures they experience at the height of their conditions. While Ellen's episodes show her shifting in and out of the demon Orlok's control, Anna ends up having a gory miscarriage in a subway in Possession's most infamous scene. Despite the differences, both characters appear to display a frightening and primal form of possession brought on by loneliness and some supernatural entity. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I like this. I like, again, where we get some callbacks, some respect, some honor to previous films, especially not just when it comes to story, but when it comes to the actors and actresses finding their inspiration from previous films on how they're going to portray a character. Now, I'm not looking for a carbon copy. I'm not looking for the exact same performance, but it is nice to know that they know they can look back on something and say, hey, I'm going to try and cherry pick from that. I'm going to honor that actress or actor, or I'm going to honor that film, and I'm going to bring that into my performance or how I portray this character. So again, I always find that very respectful and respectful, you know, when an actress or actor does that. So glad to see that she did that, but more so I'm glad that this type of information always comes out after a film, whether it's a week, whether it's a year, just to see the behind the scenes influences that drive modern day film and TV shows. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for today's daily episode. I just want to say a quick thank you to all the new subscribers to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Make sure to drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Are you excited for Scream 7? Who do you think Ghostface is going to be? Are you going to think it might be Gale Weathers, or could they just make the leap and make it Sidney Prescott, make Neve Campbell Ghostface, and just give her a bow out of the franchise? And are you always interested to find out about these behind-the-scenes influences that actors and actresses go? In this case, Lily-Rose Depp provides some insight into how and what drove her performance, what influenced her for the 2024 Nosferatu. And finally, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you at the next one. Peace.